Shana? What?
Hi.
Uh,
I'm not in the
you're above it. Last week, a interesting dialogue from the Gemara, from tractate Avoda Zara. And Seth that talks about idol worshiping, all the prohibitions of dealing with idolatry. That's what the Masechta means a tractate, talks about. But at the very beginning, close to the very beginning of the tractate of the Masechet, it tells over a story, an event that is going to take place before Moshiach comes, or actually after Moshiach has arrived, between the Gentile world and God. Some say it's not the actual people, Gentile people, but it's their counterparts in heaven. Every nation has a mazel, a sar, that takes care of them and serves as their, defending lawyer. But either way, there's a very interesting dialogue that we started last week. Before we get to the Gemara, I just want to mention something interesting. That there's actually a connection between, if anybody can tell me what the connection is, I would be happy, between the holiday of Purim and this week's Parsha of Noach. Who can guess that one? Give you a bigger hint. It has to do with Haman. Not the Ness of Purim, but the villain called Haman, Haman HaRasha. Where is Haman connected to? How is he connected to the Parsha of Noach, which is about the flood? So it says in the Medrash, no one else, okay, the Medrash says that where did Haman get his gallows to hang Mordecai? He sent one of his sons to Turkey, Mount Ararat, where the ark, remnants of the ark were found. He took a board. From there, he decided to use that board as the gallows in which to hang Mordecai. Why did he choose that? Because he felt it's a good omen for him. Just as the ark is a reminder of the destruction of the world, he also felt that with this, he'll also be able to destroy the Jewish people. But wrong he was, because the very ark shows how Hashem preserved the world, saved the world. And likewise, he's going to save the Jewish people again. But this was Haman's plan. It's mentioned in the Medrash. Where is Haman hinted in Bereshis? In fact, the Gemara asks, where is Haman? And we found a pasuk in the beginning of Bereshis, not the beginning, but in the middle of Chumash Bereshis, Parshat Bereshis. So the pasuk is, when Hashem notices that Adam and Chava sinned, he finds Adam and he asks him, first he asks him, Ayeka, where were you? Where are you? Not to scare him. And then he says, Amin ha'etz hazeh, is it from this tree that I told you not to eat? And you ate? Hamin, is it then from? Hamin, same letters as Haman. Thank you. Haman and Hamin, they don't sound alike, but they, hey, mem, nun, Hamin, Haman. Strange connection. What is the connection between the words Hamin, Ha-H to Haman? So everyone says the H, the tree, Eitz Hadas, is connected to the tree that Haman wanted to hang Mordecai on. But the truth is something deeper than that. We'll just share with it and we'll go to the Gemara right away. The answer to the question is as follows. The Gemara is not asking where's Haman's name hinted in the Torah. Why should the Torah have Haman's name? The Gemara is asking, where did Haman get that greediness? He was such a greedy individual. He had everything he wanted. He had a tremendous amount of children. One opinion, he had 70 children, probably more than one wife, but he had 70 children. He had wealth to the sky. He had all the honor in the world. He was second in command. Everyone was bowing to him. One exception, one Jew, an old rabbi sitting and not bowing to him. What do you care? You have everything. You have 99.9. One Jew who's stubborn. Ignore him. No. It's either all or nothing. I have to have everything. 99 is not good enough. 99% is not good enough. I need 100%. Mea achuz. If I don't have 100% of people honoring me and everything has to go my way or the highway, I can't tolerate it. And I go crazy, I'll kill a whole nation because of this. Where did this come from? Where is the origin of such arrogance? The Gemara answers, gotta be careful, but because we're talking about Adam Marisha right now. There's no Haman about it. The first man chose one tree to take from. All the trees were okay. One tree, the one tree that I told you not to eat, you had to eat it. You had to take from it. In fact, he could have waited 3 more hours and he would have been able to use it for Kiddush. Because his sin was on a Friday. 3 hours later, it was a grape, to one opinion. He could have made grape juice or wine, and he would have been able to use that same fruit a few hours later. You can't hold yourself back. You were just commanded by God. First command, first, fresh off the press, God speaks to you and says, do me a favor, every tree here you can have just one tree. Please hold yourself back for a few hours. No, I can't. So that's the source of Haman's arrogance. It stems from Adam Rishon. Not to compare it to, but that level of arrogance has to have some kind of source in the Torah. That's the connection between Haman and Bereshis. Haman and Lech Lecha talks about Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's mother, what was Avram's mother's name? You know about his father, Terach. What was his mother's name? Huh? Can't hear you.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yes.
Her name was that we don't know?
No, the mother.
Avram, what was his mother's name? She had a name. It's not mentioned in the Chumash, you're right. But the Medrash says her name was Amasloi Bas Carnivo. His bubby's name was Carnival. His mother's name was Amasloi. Guess who else's mother's name was Amasloi? Haman. You know his father, Haman's mother and Avram's mother had the same name. Difference is, one of them had a Haman for a child, and one had a Avram Avinu for a child. Pretty big difference. But they share the same name. This is Medrash, just want to share with you. Okay. Now, we talked about a lot of history, a lot of the whole involvement of the Gemara, the Talmud last week. As a Hadama, as an introduction to the learning of the Gemara. Gemara goes back 1,500 years. The Mishnah, which the Gemara is based on and tries to explain the Mishnah, is hundreds of years before. So the Gemara spans around 7 generations, and the Mishnah spans around 5 generations before the Gemara. And then, of course, before the Mishnah, we had other great sages called the Zugais, the pairs, going back all the way to the prophets. But our Gemara, the Gemara that we're learning, which is a Babylonian Talmud, is also a Jerusalem Talmud, by the way, which was redacted and compiled earlier, about 100 years before. And whenever there's a dispute between the Babylonian versus the Jerusalem, we follow the Babylonian Talmud. And that is, the reason for that is because the Babylonian Talmud saw what the sages of the Jerusalem Talmud said, and they disagreed. But the Jerusalem sages did not get to see what the Babylonian students. So usually when you have contemporaries and one saw the other, the earlier one did not see the later one's opinion, and vice versa. The later one did see the earlier one and still disagreed. It gives more strength to the later post-codifiers. So that's one of the reasons why we follow the Babylonian Talmud, which is the Talmud we're learning, versus the Jerusalem Talmud. One day I'm going to show you what the Jerusalem Talmud looks like, but not today. So last week I had a whole debate, a whole dialogue, all the Goyim notice, either the Goyim or their star or their counterparts in the spiritual realms, notice that God has something in his lap, metaphorically. What does he have? A Torah scroll. And he's asking whoever occupied himself in this shall come to get their wages, their reward. And of course, the Romans think that they're prestigious nation, their impact affected the world for generations and many generations to come. They felt they should be the ones to come and collect their reward. On what grounds? And the Gemara will mention, oh, we built bridges, we did this, we made bathhouses, all for the sake of the Jewish people to live. They should have more time to learn, you should be healthy, because if you're not healthy, you don't have proper hygiene, you can't learn properly, you can't do mitzvahs properly. So we actually help them. God says, yeah, sure. You did it all for yourself. It was all for selfish reasons. You're right. I made sure you would do this. You're not lying that it was done for the Jewish people's sake, but that's not what you had in mind. So you're fools for thinking that I can't read your mind. I know what you had in mind. It's all self-serving, nothing to do with the Jewish people. You didn't care about them one bit. So you have no reward. And in fact, you deserve a lot of punishment for all the terrible suffering that you caused to the Jewish people, the time of Rabbi Akiva, the 10 martyrs. So you don't deserve any reward. Next. Let's go back. Let's see the Talmud inside. We started last week. This week we'll try to cover more ground. The page, for the first, you have the first page, the first pages, because I have plenty of copies needed. Last week I gave it to you. Here's an extra copy if anyone needs it. This is the very beginning of it. Another copy.
What's this one?
Yeah. So that's the, yeah. By the way, I want to mention one thing before we start. This is where it begins. This first page last week.
Can I ask for the pen?
The what? Oh, the pen. Sure. Another copy you need. Try to keep the copies and not lose it. Okay. No, that's the beginning. Here. You have it from last week. You should have it from last week. Okay, this is a picture of what the Gemara looks like, the actual original. You have the Gemara in the middle. We did it last week. It's Rashi. Rashi is always on the inside. This is Rashi. This is Tosfos. This is his grandchildren who argue with Rashi. Rashi is a commentary on the Talmud, and on the next page, turn over the page. Again, Rashi will always be on the inside. So Rashi is over here this time, and then Tosfos is over here. I just want to just throw you something before we go back further. Take a look at the first. You have this page, the Hebrew page, not the English. You have this page with you. You'll take a look and you'll see that every single page will be 4 wide lines of Rashi before the lines get narrow. It's only a sample of one page, but if you go through every single page in the entire Talmud, almost without exception, you will notice that the top of each page with Rashi's commentary has 4 wide lines before the lines get narrow. It's almost like, look at me, I'm wide, it's like a sign. Why the 4 lines? We don't know if the Rashi intended to do this or the printer just made it this way, but everything is by divine providence. The fact that on top of every page of Rashi, you have the lines that are wide 4 must be for a reason. And they say the reason is because when you learn Talmud and you understand it, you begin to feel it's like human logic. It's like any other secular subject. You have math, you have biology, you have chemistry, you have science, and you have Torah. Because Talmud is not, doesn't sound divine like when you learn a mimer, or even a sikha. There you talk about God directly. Here you're talking about worldly things, down to earth things. In fact, some of them are laws of criminal laws about bad people. So you don't really see the holiness when you learn Talmud. God is sort of like camouflage, hidden. In fact, the word tractate in Hebrew, masechet, could also be translated as masecha. You know what masecha is? A mask. Hashem is masking himself. You don't see divinity when you learn the Talmud. You can poke yourself into the fact it's human logic. In order to offset that feeling, Rashi, who's what makes the Talmud, without Rashi, you can't understand anything. With Rashi's commentary, the Talmud becomes clear. The problem is it becomes too clear. And we begin to feel it's not so deep, it's not so divine. I don't see the divinity in here. It's, just like any other subject, maybe even easier. So therefore, there's a hint. The first 4 lines are why. What does 4 represent? God's name, the tetragrammaton, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hashem's name is 4 letters. To hint to you, don't forget where the Torah comes from. Even the Torah that is halacha, that is down to earth discussion, do not make any mistake and think that it's less divine than when you're learning Chassidus, a mimer, talks directly about Hashem and about neshamas and spiritual things. It's interesting also that the Babylonian Talmud only starts with page 2. Take a look at the Hebrew, you'll see. I don't get to see it here, but it's rubbed out. But over here, it's rubbed out. It says page. It's the very, very beginning. There's no page 1. There's no page 1 in Talmud. That's strange. No book that starts at page 2. What happened to page 1? You know what the answer is?
What is that?
What?
Why is that?
Why is that? So I'm trying to explain. The answer why is that's a good question. The answer is because the learning experience is step 2. Do not think that what you're learning is something secular, or even though it might not be secular, but it's not divine. Realize that the Aleph is the giver of the Torah. Page 1 is not about learning, it's about knowing who the giver is. When you start learning, that's step 2 already. But make sure that when you learn, don't have your learning as step 1 and having no God-given Torah. If Torah is just logic, just read it and understand it, you got a problem. So in order to introduce to us the idea that Torah is divine, we purposely start the learning experience from page 2, meaning divine experience is beyond the pages, is page 1. First thing you got to think of is whose Torah you're learning, and then you can go ahead and learn it and then not become arrogant and thinking that it's just like any other subject. Okay. So we started last week. It's hard to start again. I'm going to start the whole thing over again. So let's continue where we left off. We left off, turn to, in your copies, okay, it's let's start from where it says 2b on the left-hand side on top. The bottom it says, having explained why the Romans are admitted first. That's what we did this last week, but we'll go over this part again. This is the second page I gave you, I think. Should be the second page. Should be the second page. Yeah. Yeah. Take a look at the second page. This is page 1. And then you'll see a page like this. And on the left side of the page, the right side, my mistake. The right side over here. Right over here on page 2. It's side 3, but it's page 2. First page has 2 sides. One very small side with almost no writing on it, and then the next page after that, start from there. So they're going to come back and they say, having explained, let's go back to the Gemara. Having explained why the Romans are admitted first, the Gemara explain why the Romans get first, because their impact on the world is unbelievable. It has lasted for many generations. We also mentioned, why is it that a king is judged first? We gave 2 reasons why a king is judged before the nation. King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, he says, they first judge your servant, meaning himself, and then judge the rest of the people. So the Gemara gave 2 reasons. Someone remember the reasons? 2 reasons why a king is judged first. Normally a king would, not be first, because if you're being judged, not favorably, the king would be last, you would think. You honor the king in good things, but not when you're judging him. So why does the king go first? 2 reasons. One reason is it's not proper to have a king waiting outside and the rest of the people are being taken care of first. It doesn't sound proper, even though it's something not negative, not positive. It's not inappropriate for a king to be waiting outside. The second reason is even a better reason, that if the people were to be judged first, the wrath of Hashem would be aroused. And then the king would be in trouble because he's responsible for all their sins. He's their king. So Hashem wants the king to be judged first, even though he knows the whole story about his nation. Once the king is judged first, the wrath of Hashem is not full force, so it'll be much better for him and for the people. So that's the reason why the Romans were judged first, because they were like kings of the world. They were the most prestigious people of the world, of the non-Jewish world. So now Hashem says to them, okay, you want a reward? Why? Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, says to the Romans, V'maya saktem, with what did you involve yourself? And they respond, they respond before him. Next page, turn the page just turn the page right on the back side. Master of the world, what are you talking about? We did a lot of great things for the Jewish people. We didn't learn any Torah because we're not Torah scholars, but we helped the Torah scholars. How do we do that? Harbe shvakim tukinu. We established many marketplaces. Harbe mechatzoris osinu. We have constructed many bathhouses for them to be clean. Look in footnote 15. It says all of our efforts afforded the Jews an opportunity to involve themselves in Torah study for the healthy economic environment created by the abundance of gold and silver made it possible for the Jews to earn a living without expending inordinate amounts of time and effort. The markets provided them made easy access to food goods, and the bathhouses offered them a means to enhance their physical health. The Romans thus contend that their efforts facilitated Torah study and that they should be rewarded accordingly, similar to the Zvulun Issachar. The two tribes, Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar were the learners and Zvulun were the businessmen, but they actually contributed to the help Yisachar learn, so therefore they're also rewarded as if they were Torah scholars themselves. The Romans claim the same thing. So they said like this: all the things that we did, we had tremendous amount of marketplaces, bathhouses, amassed much silver and gold. The all this we amassed only for the sake of the Jews. So they should be able to involve themselves in Torah study. So Hashem said, sure, that's what I had in mind when I made you rich. And that's not what you had in mind. You're not lying, but you're fools. Shotim Shabbat fools of the world. Whatever you have done has been for your own sake. Tikantem Shvakim, why did you establish markets to quarter prostitutes in them? Not for the Jewish people. Merchatzois, bathhouses, to luxuriate yourselves in them. Kesef Ezav, and the gold and silver that you've gathered, which does help Jewish people. And it helps everyone. If the nation is rich, every individual also has it better. But guess what? All the money that you have is my money. It is in fact mine. Shenamar, he quotes a pasuk. This is a pasuk in Haggai. Li hakesef li azav nu Hashem. Mine is the silver and the gold. So you have no right to claim anything is yours. Then Hashem says, Klum yesh lachem magid zos. Are there any amongst you who have disseminated this, the Torah? Any people that have helped the Torah? Shenamar, and how do we know Hashem asks them that? Mi bachem yagid zos. Who can, in the conclusion of that aforementioned pasuk, it says, who amongst them declare this? And whenever it says this, it means the word zos is a reference to Torah. The ein zos tel Torah. And the term this refers to nothing other than the Torah. Shenamar, the zos ha-Torah shasam Moshe. As it says, and this is the Torah which Moses set forth. Now, it's a rhetorical question. Did anyone expound amongst you people the Torah? Of course not. Obviously, no. It was not a question. It was a rhetorical question. The answer is obvious. And therefore, miyad yatzu bepachi nefesh, the last line on this column. Upon hearing this, the Romans immediately left in despair. Then came the next group of people. Yatzu malchus Romi v'nichsa malchus paras. The Roman Empire leaves and the Persian Empire enters after her. Why is the Romans first and then Persia after? What is the reason that the Persian Empire is admitted next, even though in the dream of Daniel, Persia is mentioned, Romans are mentioned last? Why are they mentioned here first? Why do they get the first to serve? First come to be judged. The Hakashiva Basra, for they are the most prestigious empire after the Romans. Why the Persians are number two? Because they are the second most prestigious people in the world. And how do we know this? And we know them. From where do we know that they're also very prestigious? Because in the dream of Daniel, it says, I saw another beast, a second one, indicating that they're second in command, similar to a bear. So they have the energy of a bear. The Tanya Rabbi Yosef says, Elu Parsim, the goyim that are compared to a bear are the Persians. Why are they compared to bears? They eat a lot, who eat and drink like a bear, and thickly coated with flesh. They're very overweight, like bears. They grow long hair like bears. They never take a rest. Unlike lions like to sleep a lot. But bears are always on the run, and they're even more dangerous than lions in many ways. They never have at rest. They're always hungry, even when they eat. It's always dangerous. They always want to eat, and they're always on the move. So the Persians are compared to bears. Therefore, they're second to the Romans, who, as the Gemara will say later, are the most influential, most powerful nation in the world. Today, America, the United States, could qualify as the Romans of today, Rome of today. Although there's Rome, of course, there's Rome in Europe, but there's also, Rome also means exalted, prestigious, superpower. So today we can say that although they've gone through a refinement. We have referred to this country as a malchus shel chesed, a wonderful country, a benign country, although things are going on right now, they're not so kosher. But this country is a good country. So it's refined. But we're talking about the Romans of the past, Rome of the past, who are descendants of Esau. Okay. Hashem says to the Persians now, "B'maya saktem, what's your case? Why do you want to collect reward? What did you do so good?" And they respond before him, "Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Harvei geshorim, we constructed many bridges. I guess maybe even more than the previous Romans. We conquered many cities. They were known to conquer a lot. Harvei milchamos asinu, we waged many defensive wars. The kulam lo yasinu, again, Yisrael, we all did this for the sake of the Jewish people, so therefore we deserve to be rewarded. And what for what sake? Kadeshi is asku b'Torah, so they should be able to involve themselves with Torah learning, and therefore we are as good as Torah learners ourselves." Next page. That would be. Yeah. Yeah, so page 2B3. So God answers back to them the same way he answered to the other people, to the Romans. Kol masha asisem, whatever you have done was for your own sake. You constructed bridges, you know why? To collect taxes from those that pass these bridges. You want more taxes. Karachim, you conquered cities. Lasais behem angaria, to press their inhabitants and livestock to the service of the king. You want more servants. Wars, in fact, even though winning a war is always good for all the people, so you can't say it's not for the sake of the people, but I am the one that made you win. Don't give yourself any credit. The one who has waged wars is me, because it says in the Shira, in the Song of the Sea, Hashem ish milchama, God is the master of war. Don't give yourself any credit. Could anybody claim the Torah? Again, the same thing happens there. No one can claim it. And immediately they left in despair. Let's see the Gemara. Let's try to stick to the next paragraph. Why did the Persians think they had a chance after the Romans were rejected? But once the Persian Empire saw the arguments of the Roman Empire helped them not all, so why would they be any better? My time Isla, why do they even enter to plead their case? And the answer is, Amri, they said, we're much different. Inu Sasri Beis Hamikdash. They, the Romans, destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, Ba'anan Baninon. But we, the Persians, constructed it. So we build the Beis Hamikdash. Because we build the Beis Hamikdash, we certainly have more of a right to claim that whatever we did was for the Jewish people. Then the Gemara continues, likewise, every single nation will also come and claim their reward, and they will be rejected. So now the question is asked, but once the other nations have seen that the rationalization provided by the previous nations didn't help them, why would they even enter to plead their case before God? Why would you come to enter if you see that all the other goyim were rejected? Why are you better? And the answer is, they think to themselves that each other nation subjugated the Jews. And we, on the other hand, at least we didn't hurt any Jews. Persia did, the Romans did, but many of the other nations did not have anything to do with Jewish people. So perhaps we're better off than everyone else is. And that's why they thought they have a case. Okay, let's skip a little bit here. Let's go to the bottom of this page. The nations will attempt to defend themselves against God. They see they can't get any reward. They're going to now complain that it's not their fault that they didn't receive the Torah. And they involve themselves in Torah learning. They admit that they didn't, but they're going to give themselves a reason and excuse. Omrim lefana, they say before God, Ribono shel olam, did you give us the Torah? Klum nasat olam lekibanu, did you offer us the Torah? You never offered it to us. Did we refuse to accept it? You never offered it to us. So the Jews, you offered. So why should we be left out? Now the Gemara is going to say, wait a second, that's not true. They were offered. If you look at Rashi in the Chumash, Rashi quotes this Gemara. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Can they really claim that God did not offer the Torah to them? Well, Haksiv, it says when Hashem came to the Jewish people, it says he came first to the non-Jews. He came to Esau and Yishmael and to other nations. And they all rejected. They all said no. Hashem said he came from Sinai only after having shown forth to them. Look at the next page. Next slide, that is, turn the side. Only after appearing to Esau and to Yishmael. So it clearly states that they were offered and they refused. Esau said, do not kill, I can't accept that. Ishmael said, do not commit any sexual crimes. We live on that. We can't do that. We can't accept it. And many other nations picked something else they couldn't tolerate. So we went, God offered everyone. They all rejected him. What's their claim? So the Gemara said, you're right. They didn't, that's not their claim. What they claimed was something else. What was their claim? Let's go to the next paragraph. I'm skipping a little bit. We know from the fact that it's mentioned in the Torah that Hashem appeared to other nations before he came to Sinai. It says he's shown from Seir. Seir is Esau. Paran is where Ishmael was living. So they couldn't claim that Hashem never came and never offered them the Torah. Ella hachi ka'amri. Gemara answers. Rather, they will say thus: Klum ki balnua v'loy ki amnua. Did we accept the Torah and fail to observe its precepts? The Jews did. We never accepted the Torah. Are we guilty of violating the Torah? We never accepted it. That sounds strange also, as Gemara will soon say. They're boasting about they didn't accept the Torah. Then how do you get reward for Torah if you didn't accept it? True, you're not going to be blamed for not listening to the Torah laws. But reward? Torah reward? A reward for Torah learning? So Gemara says that doesn't make any sense either. But in this very contention, there lies their reputation. By saying they didn't receive the Torah, they're saying that they have no right to accept any reward. Why didn't you? And also, why didn't you accept the Torah? Doesn't look good for you guys. Ella, here's what the Goyim are saying. Master of the universe. Yes, it's true, we didn't accept it. But the Jews also didn't really accept it. You forced them. You coerced them. They were coerced. What's the story with the mountain? Hashem took the mountain as a dome and put it over their heads. No one listening? Anyone awake? Hello? It says they stood underneath, bitachtit har. They stood, bitachtit har, sounds like they were standing under a mountain. You don't stand under a mountain, you stand on the side of the mountain. The answer is Hashem had the mountain come above them like a dome and said, you want to stay here forever? If you don't accept the Torah, this will be your place of burial. Why did you force us? You forced them. They accepted it by force. If you would have forced us, we also would have accepted it. That's their claim. This is a good claim. Seemingly. Just by the way, there's a much more positive way of explaining this Gemara, according to Chassidus. What do you mean God took a mountain and put it over their heads, scaring the daylights out of them, and saying to them, you're going to be buried here? What does that actually mean? So there's a Chassidus shot that says, it's not a simple shot, it says like this: God fell in love with us even when we weren't ready to accept it. Truth is, we did accept it. We said Na'aseh v'nishma, but then we got so scared we wanted to back out. What Hashem revealed was a mountain of love. Mountains are bulging, are tall. Love is extensive. Hashem drugged us, hypnotized us with love. We fell in love with him. We couldn't say no to him. His love reciprocated. His love for us bounced right back, and we started loving him. You can't say no to someone you love, no matter how scary, receiving the Torah might sound like, all the noises they heard and the sound, but they couldn't say no. So it's a much more positive type of forcing, but still, never showed us any love, that's for sure. You never scared us, you never showed us any love. So what are you blaming us? This is the claim of the non-Jews. Master of the universe, did you tip the mountain over us as if it were overturned back? And we never accepted, and we nonetheless, did we even refuse after you threatened us? As you did to the Jewish people? You threatened them and they accepted it? Did you try to threaten us? Did that ever happen? And we said no in spite of your threats? No, you never threatened us. How do we know that Hashem threatened us? How do we know Hashem forced us to accept the Torah? But it says by the Torah giving, it is written in regard to Mount Sinai, they stood at the foot, literally in the bottom of the mountain. Bit tachlis, in the bottom of the mountain. But Omar Rabbi Greenberg said, Malamed comes to teach you that he tipped the mountain and positioned it over the Jews as though it were an overturned bat, like a gigantic dome over them. And he said to them, if you accept the Torah, mutav, fine. And if not, your burial will be here. According to the Cheshvan shot, what does it mean your burial will be here? If it means Hashem drugged us with love, what did he mean by saying you'll be buried here? Doesn't fit very well, right? With the Cheshvan shot. Fits very well if he was threatening us. But if he's drugging us, hypnotizing us, hypnosis with love, why did he say, Sham tehek furaschem, if you don't accept the Torah, it will be the place where you'll be buried? What does that mean? Yes, what it means is, what's the purpose? Why are we here, souls in a body? What's the reason why we're here? Why did Hashem come down? For the Torah. If you're not going to learn Torah, if there's not going to be any Torah world, then who needs the soul down here? The soul can go back to where it came from, and the body will be buried. The body has no purpose unless the soul helps the body learn Torah and do mitzvahs. If not for that, there's no purpose. So you might as well just say goodbye. And status quo. Souls go back up, body gets buried. But it was a feeling of love that Hashem drugged us and we couldn't say no. This is how Chassidus explains it. A mountain is sometimes a metaphor for love. In fact, Avraham Avinu, who is known to be a very strong, loving person of Hashem, he referred to the Beis Hamikdash as a mountain because he had a mountainous love for Hashem. So he calls the Beis Hamikdash Har, Har Hashem Yira'eh. Yitzchak had a different name, and Yaakov had a different name for the Beis Hamikdash. Avram called the area of the Beis Hamikdash to be Bahar Hashem. Why Har? Because Avram Avinu himself had the midah of chesed, of ahava, which is compared to a har, to love, compared to a mountain. Okay, so now we need an answer. How did Hashem respond to the non-Jews? We know that he forced the Jewish people, didn't force them. Miyaz, so Hashem says right away, who do you think you are by claiming that you should have been forced? Did you keep the 7 Noahide laws? The Jews at least kept other mitzvahs. First of all, they said Na'aseh v'nishma. Before they got scared, they said Na'aseh v'nishma. And they kept Shabbos before the Torah was given. Can't compete with are you looking up some words?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's around my crush and secret or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You can ask me, I'll stop.
Oh,
Yeah, if you need to, I should translate something in more clear English, you can ask me.
okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I don't use.
I understand. I don't speak Russian yet, but I'll learn one day.
It's okay.
Huh?
It's
I will
okay.
speak
You shouldn't.
slow. It's against my nature, but I'll try it.
Yay.
Miyad Omar Lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I'm sorry.
Immediately the Holy One Hashem says to them, Harishonot Yashmi Unu. The first laws that all mankind accepted. You accepted it without me forcing you. And yet did you keep it? You want me to force you to keep mitzvahs that are way beyond, much greater than what are the 7 Noahide laws? Do not kill, do not steal. These are, decency, moral ethics. You couldn't even keep them. You said yes, and you violated even the basic laws of humanity. But you want to know the laws of Shabbos? You want me to give you a mitzvah like shofar and Shabbos and lulav? These are divine laws. You couldn't even keep the man laws. The laws that are connected to being a decent human being. You killed, you stole, ganav, mitzicha, did all the sins. I should force you, especially if it's Al Pi Chasidus. I should force you with love. How do you love a person? Why should I love you? You rejected everything. You're full of it. You accepted it and you did away with it. So it's a big difference between you and the Jewish people. The Jews did accept. And they got scared. They said Na'aseh v'nishma. They meant it. They got scared later. And many of the mitzvahs they kept before the Torah was given. And they didn't violate them. You did. And here the Gemara says something very interesting. First of all, how do we know? I'm going to skip a little bit. How do we know that the non-Jews, the Gentiles, did not observe the 7 Noahide laws? It's a very strange question. Hitler, Stalin, the Inquisition, The Crusades go back to 2,000 years, thanks to you know who. In his name, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Jews were slaughtered. And also non-Jews. It's also a sin to kill a non-Jew. How many people did Stalin kill? 100 million, maybe?
Much more than Hitler.
Yeah, much more. Hitler killed a tremendous amount of people besides Jewish people. Then you have this guy from China, not China, Korea, North Korea. They're all murderers. What's the Gemara asking? How do we know? And there's no answer. All we know is that when you have a pasuk is stronger than even the best evidence in the world. The Gemara wants to bring a Torah source that the non-Jews did not keep, even though we ourselves had witnessed it. And what's the source? The source is like this. Look in paragraph. I'm going very quickly here because there's a lot of material. Take a look at the middle of this page, on the left side, Amad, where it says, the Gemara answers. Where do we know they didn't keep the laws? Wow, it's late. Because as Rabbi Yosef said, there's a verse in a pasuk in Habakkuk. And it says the following, Amad, Hashem stood, Vayimoded, and he measured, Eretz, the land, Ra, and he saw fit, and he dispersed the nations. What does it mean he saw? What did he see? He saw that the nations did not accept the Torah and did not fulfill their mitzvahs. And you know what he did? He said, you know what? I take it back. No commandments for you. You're like animals. I take everything back. You do what you want, and I have nothing to do with you anymore. So the 7 no-light laws are no longer in effect for them. They don't have to keep them anymore. Wait a second. That doesn't sound right. Because you sin, you get a permit. Hashem takes away the mitzvah from you. I'm a chayim. It pays to sin. Now I can kill. Now I can steal. Makes no sense. So the Gemara says, no. That's not what Hashem meant. Hashem just says, I'm not going to, I'm going to punish you if you violate the 7 mitzvahs. But if you do them, if you obey them, I'm not going to reward you. With the exception of those goyim who keep the 7 mitzvahs because the Torah said so. But regular goyim who keep it because it's moral and ethical, they will not be rewarded for what they're doing. The Gemara says that's not true either. Hashem will reward them. But not to the same degree he rewards the Jewish people for their mitzvahs. The Gemara concludes exactly what the difference is. So they will get rewarded, but not to the same. They'll be rewarded the way a person who is not told, for example, when do you get a greater reward? When Hashem commands you to do something and you do it? Or when you do it on your own without him having to tell you? You would think so. The answer is no. Because when you do it on your own, the Yetzer Hara doesn't bother you. When you have Hashem telling you, Yetzer Hara tries to stop you. So you're fighting a war, you deserve more credit. One of the reasons. So you get much more reward if you're commanded and you keep the mitzvah. The non-Jews, even though they were commanded, they'll only get rewarded as much as you would get for mitzvahs you do on your own. And Hashem is saying, the extra reward for me commanding, you're not going to get. Okay. We'll stop here. It's a whole long, it's going to go on and on and on. It gets very, very involving and interesting. Please keep your copies, don't lose it. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Good job.
I need the pen again.
Yeah, sure.
Pen again. Deborah?
Me.
Maya, not here. Shayna? Not here.
Thank you.
Have a good week. Good job.
This is my iPhone. Oh. Ready? Whoa. Here we go over. That's the Gemara. Shabbos. You never know where you're starting. No, but if Mr. Strizzen looks for
He's
next week,
talking about Kabbalah Torah. When you receive Torah, that's it.
yeah, so the whole thing.